Hello. So you've probably seen Maxim's web scraping property finder tutorial that he recorded in the rain. Um, I looked at that and I wanted to unpick it so that I could understand it and also modify it for my own curiosity and just try and come up with a different way of doing it, a different approach. And I think I've done that. So if you'd like to see that, I will start showing you here. We've got a Linux Ubuntu VM, which we will write the code with. Scrapy is already installed, so and Python obviously. So if you've got Python, if you've got Scrapy, and you've got a web browser and internet connection, then you will be fine. So let's have a look at Property Finder website. This is the link that Maxim started with, as I believe that was what one of his subscribers asked him to demonstrate or do a tutorial on. So yeah, let's just have a quick recap on that. You may or may not have already seen that, so I'll put the link to that in the description below. What we've got is real estate properties with, I believe it's 25 listings per page, and we've got link there to the details page, so fairly standard format. We've got information here: bedrooms, baths, square meterage, approximate address, 10 images. These are all premium, but I don't know, they're all premium. Okay, ignore that. And beyond those 25, you will then see at the bottom we've got 10 pages followed by next. So it goes beyond 10, which will be something to work with, because we will then, let's go to 10. Okay, so we go on 10 and then it shows us some more. So rather than a fixed number of pages, we will treat this dynamically. So yeah, let's begin. So in this tutorial, I want to use xpath, as it's not always covered in tutorials and it's very powerful, but also it can be simple and as straightforward to use as CSS for the selectors. What are the selectors? The selectors are ways of picking out the bits of information that you need. So if we, as usual, use Chrome and right click, inspect, and we can begin looking at the HTML code. And here we can already see, if we hover over this, as per Maxim's video, we can pick up where he left off, so to speak. So we know that each item is called a card. So the whole list is data-qs property list, and then each item in that list of 25 is a card-list_item, and we will be dealing with groups of 25, and as we can see, that card list item repeats itself. We have the full href there. The class is card clickable, with lots of space around it as well. Don't see that being an issue. We will be getting all of the things I've just mentioned, and possibly we may also attempt to get the geo-coordinates. Well, we will, because Maxim's already shown that it's possible from the JSON which was extracted from the application data. Application /LD plus JSON. Lots of nice information in here, which is the there we go, this is geo coordinates. That is in the detail of each page, so not on the main page. We will use the spider to go down one level and extract the JSON data so that we can then pick out the latitude and the longitude. And as you can see, it looks like we've got a list of dictionaries, or maybe, yes, I think it's a list of dictionaries, and we will be picking out the values based on the keys, and the keys are nicely named, so latitude and longitude, which is exactly what we want. So let's begin with writing some code. I'm going to be using, as I say, my Ubuntu machine with micro text editor, just to keep it really nice and simple. I'm not going to complicate things with VS Code or PyCharm or anything like that. So if you'd like to begin, let's go. So here I am actually going to use Scrapy and start project to demonstrate the structure of folders and files that Scrapy creates for us, and then we will adapt it to suit our needs thereafter. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a virtual environment, which you may or may not be familiar with, but the command is sudo virtual env, and then it will be the name of the project directory, which we will call pf. I'm going to keep it really short because my typing is not the best in the world. Property Finder tutorial pf tut. And created virtual environment in 597 milliseconds, which is nice. So then we will cd to pf tut. We actually want to cd to bin, and then we do source activate. And there we see pf tut appears right at the start of the prompt. Okay, so we've got a virtual environment with the usual. So anything we install here will only affect this local instance of Python. Scrapy is already available. Next, Scrapy start project, and then we want pf scrape. I think we call it pf scrape. I've already done a demo, so I don't want to have conflicting names or anything, so I hope that's okay. Pf scrape. And I need to use sudo, so do it again. There we go. So when you've done it successfully, you will get new Scrapy project, pf scrape, using template directory. You can start your first spider with cd pf scrape, Scrapy gen spider example, blah blah blah. Okay, so I'm not going to dwell on this too much because you probably want to see some bit more progress than that. So let's begin, and we want to go to pf scrape. And inside pf scrape, there's another pf scrape. Those of you who are familiar with Django or anything will be familiar with having a second directory of the same name inside the first. So we've got items.py, which we will be using, which is just the blank, or not the blank, it's the basic framework. And inside spiders, we will just have an init.py file. So let's if you have several or many spiders, you would run them all from inside spiders. Because I run the script as a Python file, I actually create my spider here at this directory level. So without further ado, let's begin. So sudo micro and pf, I'm going to call it pf spider.py, and here we have a blank file. So let's begin. First thing is import. Let's put some documentation here, shall we? Property finder.bh scrape code. That's my website, and then use with items.py. This will appear on GitHub eventually, so just a little doc string there. Okay, import Scrapy. Let me get this in the correct order. We do actually want to be sensible with this, because otherwise it would end up being a very big list of imports. I know already from Maxim's video we will need JSON. Let's do those to start with. And then I'm going to use here, unlike Maxim's video, I'm going to be using Scrapy.loader, import ItemLoader. Also, I'm going to be using URL lib.parse, and I'm just going to import join and encode because I want to use the short versions when I type it. Okay. Very important one from Scrapy crawler, import crawler process, and also I want to use Scrapy selector. And last but not least, actually I'll put that below here. I haven't written it yet, but you will see it. It'll be one of the main features of this tutorial. From items, import, and what will I call my items file? I think I will be calling it let's call it px item. It gets very confusing if you start having different files with the same name but camel case and uppercase and lowercase. So px is property, just p for property, x just as an algebra x. PX doesn't mean part exchange or anything like you may think it does. Anyway, that's irrelevant. Let's begin with some code. So as ever, we need to create a class, property finder, and then scrapy.spider, numbers capital S on the spider. Name matters if you're calling it from the command line using Scrapy, but we're not, so it doesn't matter too much. Name, custom settings, which will be where we specify the feed format and the feed URI, so let's do that. Custom me. Custom underscore settings equals, and it's a dictionary, so we will do turn on caps lock because it's easier. Format CSV. I'll keep that lowercase. Feed underscore URI. That's the path of the output file, and I'm going to call it property found dot CSV. Okay, headers, which I've already, just to say boring you, I've just gone in and I've collected that. Actually, I will show you because it's quite important. So in headers, we will need to go to, yeah, so if you inspect the headers under network, so assuming that wasn't there, I'll just quickly show you. So right click, inspect, network. You'll need to refresh the page to get some traffic, and then blob, that will do, just the first one there. Expand it, and there you see headers. So we've got Mozilla, Apple, Chrome. So we'll just copy that to Notepad and we will use that. If you just Control C, just going to paste that off screen. There we go. So yeah, that's the user agent. Back to our code. Just be careful pasting in code when you're using text editors, because you can end up with indentation errors, and you'll only find those when you come to run your code, and then it's a bit of a pain to unpick it all. And or alternatively, you can copy it out of your command line text editor and paste it into something like Sublime Text, and then you can visualize it as it will show you tabs, and it will show you spaces as full stops or period characters, whatever you call them. Okay. So we've set up the class. Next we will use start requests runs by itself if you don't explicitly specify it. However, we want to specify it because we want to specify the first page, and then all subsequent pages will be handled with parse, because parse will then be processing the next link and getting the page number from that. So let's do def start requests self. So it's just self argument. There's no others. Starting URL, and then yeah, I need to paste this in as well. Let's go to, let's call it Chrome, and I want to, let's just go back. I've practiced this a little bit already, so yeah, I'm actually just going to paste that in. That is my start URL, which I'm just going to call URL, and then just say that crawl next page URL. To get the next page, we then want to yield to Scrapy request URL equals URL. Headers equals self dot headers. Callback equals self dot pass. Okay, and then that's we're into the main body of the code. So let's begin with, we'll write the function name, which will be passed because that is a Scrapy, that is a built-in Scrapy class name. So start requests and pass do need to be those names. You can expand on that, so if you had further things you wanted to be passing, you could do pass underscore detail or something, and then you just have to pass the response from this pass to the next pass, if that makes sense. Right. I'm hesitating because at some point I'm going to have to look at making the item file. So okay, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be iterating through the items which we've already looked at on the property finder page. So we know they're called cards, and we've seen Maxim's video, so we'll stick to that. Response, we're going to be using xpath, and we're looking for the main div and anything, and we want to identify it by the class name, which equals card. There's a space there, wasn't there? Dash, there's two dashes. Clickable, clickab, and we want to extract deliberate error. Don't use same quotes, you have to use both, otherwise you get an error. Stop it. Right. We want to get or extract all, so that's get. No, it's not, we don't need it. Apologies, wake up. I'll go get some more coffee, I'll pause it, and then I'll be back and we'll start writing the items.py file if you would like to see that. So keep watching. And I've just typed some complete bollocks there, so just bear with me while I just tidy that up before we progress. We actually want card dash list item. That's better. Okay, I'll show you why we need that. So just to recap, so far we've started with our start URL, which has then found us our first 25 items or cards as they're called. And here we see each item is called card list item. So that is what we want to be iterating through. So we need to pick out, we want to be getting price, location, bedrooms, bathrooms, property type, so on from each of these. So card dash list underscore underscore item, and that is what we will iterate through, and we want the xpath. So that is the class, and this is how we write it with xpath. We do div, because it's inside a div, we pick out the class, and then we will begin the for loop, and we will iterate through each one of those items to pick out the information we want. So yeah, next we need to start thinking about the item loader, because that is what is going to transport the collected data into items.py, or using items.py, which is going to be I think it's the pipeline, where Scrapy will do the collection for us. So let's begin on that. So just a quick word about what we're about to do. We are going to be creating an items file. We're just looking at the Scrapy documentation here. We're going to be creating an items file which will store, basically it will store our category names that we will eventually be seeing in our final output in CSV format. So essentially the items, or rather the item names in the items file will be a column name in the CSV file. That's the easiest way to explain it. Scrapy documentation covers items and item loaders. Right, to use the input and output processors, we need to use the item loader. If we don't use the item loader, then we can't use the processors. What's a processor? A processor is input-output processor is a way that you can manipulate the collected data, and it's a neat way of processing your collected data without doing it in your main spider. So you collect the data with your main spider, and then items is where you actually specify that you want to strip tabs, new lines, and join pieces of information together. Enough about that, let's get on with it. So let's just save that there using micro quit, and now we want to open up items.py, which has already been generated for us as part of the Scrapy framework, but it's bare, so, well, bare minimum rather. There we go. So that's fine to start with, but we want to, for starters, we want to be calling that px item, because that was what we called it. Where did we call it that? We've already specified its name, haven't we? Yeah, when we import it. So we do from items, which is items, this is the items file. We do from items import px item. So class name there. That's why we've just changed that. And get rid of that. So let's write an items file, shall we? First thing we want to do is, I've done this already because it's boring, you don't want to watch it, but we've collected all of the variable names that we want, or the category names, as they will appear in the CSV. I also want to, so typically the xpath will be used to identify the information and populate the item or the Scrapy field. However, you can also add a value, so you don't have to rely on information collected from the xpath. Right, now there is one which we will be using a processor on. So yeah, price, the all important one, and that also equals a Scrapy field, but as you can probably remember from the Scrapy documentation, we need to use an input processor and an output processor. So we're actually going to be using a function that we write ourselves. So actually, just to make it nicer for you, I'm just going to copy that. And let's just show. So you write a function. We're going to be calling it, let's just change it, shall we, just to make it our own. Let's call it, we just want to remove N's and T's, new lines and tabs, and just bear with me on this. We want to return the value, but we just want to replace any new lines. Sorry, can't type. With a space, and then we want to, and also replace spaces with nothing. We appear to have an issue there with the quotes. Why is that? Value dot replace. And I'm just going to pause it there just while I fix this. Okay, I had a little bit of an issue there with quotes and spaces. So we're going to be replacing any new lines with a space, and we're going to be replacing any spaces with nothing. Yeah, because we want to use some processors, we need to specify from field item, and then from scrapy.loader.processors import map compose take first and join. I don't know if I'll use all of those. Actually, I probably won't use join. I'll leave it in there. Okay, so we've declared a function, and then we want to input processor, use the input processor, and we want to map compose, which basically means join these two things together. So we want to strip, and we want to remove the new line characters. And take first just means take the first output from that. So if you get a string of say 1, 2, 3, it just wants to take the first output from it. Read the Scrapy documentation for full details of all this. Don't just take my word for it. There's a wealth of information on the Scrapy website, and I'm just showing you a version. So what have we done here? We've made an items.py file, or we've modified the items.py file that Scrapy created for us. We've imported loader.processors, and we want to use map compose and take first. Join is what I also saw in a tutorial, but yeah, this is for price, because price, it has lots of new line and spaces either side of it, so we want to just strip it down. For instance, if in our CSV file we actually wanted to work with the integers and multiply them by a currency value or convert them into dollars or something, US dollars, then we would actually need them as integers, so we don't want any spaces in there. So if you've seen enough of that, which I have, then we'll save it, quit, and we will go back to our main spider, which was PF spider, and let's continue writing that. So let's begin. Just briefly before there we go, there's the documentation. It's from Scrapy Loader, processes, import. There we go. So if you do need to refer back to that, we have it there. Declaring item loaders, item loader objects, that's what we want. So next we need to create an item loader in our spider, because that is what handles or adds the values and adds the xpaths. So item loader objects. There we see reusing and extending item loaders, and that's the whole point of using items.py, is you can reuse it. So if you've got several spiders, you can use one items.py file to extract the prices, and you could have a spider for, say, I don't know, Zoopla, Rightmove, whatever, and all those spiders could then use the same items file. So that's one of the major benefits. Okay, so let's create the item loader. Just wondering why that's in there. Where's that in blue? Done it again. You have to be so careful with these single and double quotes. Right. I got a feeling Micro will probably tell me off for doing this, but I like to keep things short. So item loader and item equals, this is the class name from the class that we've created in the items.py file. So item equals px item, selector equals card, because we've called it, that's what we use to iterate through. So for each card in that we will, so card is our selector, and response equals response, yeah, response equals response. Okay, I'm going to I've created the item loader. We'll return to that shortly. I just need to think about how I'm going to handle the href, because I'm going to be collecting a relative href, and when we loop through the JSON, we want the full URL. So right, first things first. Domain equals HTTPS property finder.ph. All will become clear shortly. This is where we will be using URL join, which we've already imported from URL lib.parse. Why do we need to use this? Well, let me just save this. What I'm going to do is take you to Scrapy shell. And if you use the fetch command, you can test out your xpaths or your CSS your xpath selectors or CSS selectors. So this is what we will be fetching from to start with. That's the very first page that we will scrape, and I'm hoping that will work if my network connection is working. Yeah, crawled, we've got 200 response, which is good. Okay, so I've already found this xpath, or created this xpath to uniquely identify each item in the page. So I just copied and pasted that from my notes. We should find Okay, I wanted to show you testing xpaths or testing selectors in Scrapy. I've already shown that in a previous video. Today I'm getting forbidden by robots.txt. I think I need to go and change that in settings. Set robots debug to false. Let's get out of this. I think it's settings. I'll just check this and then yeah, robots obey. Let's change that to false. Right, let's go back to Scrapy shell. Scrapy shell's nice because you can scroll back up through your history of what you've entered. That's better. I'm hoping we'll get a 200 response here now. Yes, excellent. And then, where were we? I wanted to show you the response from the card list underscore item, and we want to, do I need to use, right, there we go. So that's our first list of, well, not a Python list, but it's our first response of 20, I believe it's 25 cards. So pass method, we want for card in response dot xpath div class equals card list underscore item. So for each one of those, we then want to collect the values or the xpaths and exit out of that. Okay, so domain. Then we're going to be, as you may have seen, start off there. We will be getting the relative URL there, which is, let's create a variable for that. equals card. So the xpath of the card, and very important, use the dot there. See that? Once I've sorted the quotes. If you don't use that, you'll end up with all sorts of gobbledygook. You'll end up with the same item 25 times. And class, what the fuck? Class equals I think it's card clickable card 2 dashes clickable, and then we want to just get the href from that and get will get just one. We want one, we don't want to get all. Get all is the same as get all is the same as extract. Is that the right number of brackets? I think I've got one too many. There we go. So domain relative URL. Right. Okay. So the final the actual URL is going to be a join. So URL join of the domain and the relative URL. Change that. Convert to full URL. Okay. One last thing to think about before we then populate all the items or use the item loader, and we want to run this first. Is the longitude and latitude coordinates, because once we've loaded all the we're going to be using add_xpath to add all of the xpath data into the objects, which gets returned using yield load item. We want to do that last, so that will yield back to Scrapy the main. Okay, so let's do. And for those of you who've seen Maxim's video, the geo-coordinates are in application/ld plus JSON. I'll show you that shortly. In fact, I will show you now. If I bring up Chrome. And if we just go into one of the items, or the cards as they're called, and just here you will see application LD plus JSON, and down here we have geo-coordinates. So that JSON list of dictionaries, or dictionary of dictionaries, can't remember, we will be extracting that and that based upon luckily Maxim's already found he's done the hard work, he's found the indices to extract those, but because we're going to be using ItemLoader, we want to use add_value because we're not actually dealing with xpaths here, or CSS paths for our selectors. So let's do try. What the? Come on. No, sorry about that. Let's just, yeah. So script. We've already loaded JSON as an import. And we're, instead of a div, we're specifying, oh, I hate it why there's two quotes there, that's really annoying. One of my slight grievances with micro. Instead of a div and a class, it's actually a script and type. Okay, so for those of you who want me to get a move on with it, let's crack on a bit faster, shall we? So we're going to loop over the card JSON. This is pretty much the same as what Maxim Code Monkey King. Same as what he did. So yeah, I'm just going to whiz through this. If you're into web scraping, I strongly recommend checking out Maxim's channel. Oh God, in goes script, typos. So we're going to loop through those elements, and we want to pick out right, now this is where you will see why the URL that I've created is the full URL. So if the full URL is the same as the URL in the card, because the URL in the card is the full URL, so we need those two to match. And then we want to begin using our loader object. So add longitude, latitude, L, so that's our loader item, dot add underscore value. So a lot of tutorials you may well see add underscore CSS, add underscore xpath. You can also add values, so we will be saying if let me say if at all, we will be saying add into the longitude Scrapy field, we want to add the value from the card which matches main entity geo. So we're picking out the values from these keys, and longitude, there's bound to be a typo in here somewhere, isn't there? You just know it. You're just waiting for me to get to the end and test it, and then swear lots when it doesn't even work. It will, trust me. Eventually it will. So this is just the same here, isn't it? So this is an amalgamation of Maxim's code where he didn't use the items.py file, and he used CSS instead of xpath, and I'm pretty much showing this as another way to skin a cat. I'm not saying this way is better, and in fact for a small project Maxim's is probably the better way because it's all contained within one file. Depends if you run Scrapy yourself on your own host and you're familiar with starting projects and placing separate files in and so on. Maxim's all self-contained one file. Possibly not as like I said, with items you can reuse it. So if you have several spiders in your spiders directory, they can all reference that one items file and all of the processes that you've created in there. So yeah, different ways of doing things. Stop talking, just type, will you? Accept exception as E, print E. Right, okay. So this is, we're actually getting to the whole point of this video now, really. Yeah, I know what you're saying. Is there a point? What is the point? That's a bit of an existential question that I'm not skilled enough to answer. Okay, I'll just type one of these and then I'll paste the rest in because it's very boring. I'll probably make loads of typos as I talk and type. So the xpath syntax, that dot means that you're starting from the node level and you're working downwards, not across, if you're familiar with the DOM. If you're not familiar with the DOM, have a look at it. It's not as intimidating as it sounds. It's just a tree structure. Don't be too fazed by siblings and descendants and so on. If you know about a family tree, then the DOM should, I don't know, there'll be some familiarity, there'll be some similarities. Okay, so this is the format. Loader object, add xpath method, and then that is the Scrapy field name, href, and then that is the xpath. So hopefully that makes sense to you. If not, then maybe go back and look at the Scrapy documentation. And to save me making loads of typos and save you getting bored, I'm going to paste all of those in. And then I'm going to spend the next 2 minutes tidying it up because I've probably got loads of indentation errors. I'll just run through these field names which you've already seen. They are the field names, well, you've seen them in Maxim's video if you've watched that. If not, then these are the field names from Property Finder website. So the href, the price, location, title, bedrooms, bathrooms, floor area, listing URL. All of those come from what they call the card. Once we've done all that, we need to do yield, and don't use return. If you use return, you'll get bad things. I'm not even going to show you. I'll let you try it for yourself. You may see return on Stack Overflow for certain things to do with Scrapy, but yield. Okay, so can we test this? Well, we can't test it yet because we haven't put in our main driver, but if I test this now, it will It should run through the first page and then break. Okay. Let's try that. So main driver, if double underscore dunder, I've heard it called. I don't call it dunder, but it's quite a cool name. Main. Run. Okay, so process equals crawler process, and that needs to be capital. Process dot crawl. So what we're doing here is we're writing the required bits. No, we're instantiating a crawler process and we're calling it process, and then we are passing property finder, which is our class. We're passing our class to the crawler process, and then we are using the Scrapy method start. There we go. Okay. I'm actually going to run it. Let's enough talking. Let's just run the thing and see what happens. Ready? Okay. Line 10. I think I've left. What the actual? Right, run again. Probably no quotes on that one, line 27. Yeah, you've probably been looking at that all along thinking it's going to fail and he's not noticed it. Right, and again. What's gone wrong here then? Line 32. In. You lot have probably been indented block. Okay, 35. Yeah. All of this needs to be indented, doesn't it? This is where I should have done it in Sublime Text. I just indent it all in one fell swoop. Just bear with me. That's really frustrating, but so what happens when you type and record a video? So yeah, it's not all shits and giggles, is it? Not for me anyway, because I don't even make any money out of these videos. I'm just doing these for the love of code. And because I'm on lockdown. And because I'm a little bit mad. Right, let's go. 67? Oh, I didn't have the... We're making progress. Right, that needs colon. What have we got now? We have remote is not defined. I've got some kind of typo in my items.py file. Did I type remote instead of remove? Yes, I did. I might have been, did I take some code from, I think that's where I took some code from the Scrapy website. Right, run again. Oh, what the actual... Oh, I cannot believe it. Right. If you wonder what I just did then, this in micro, if you just go to Alt and A takes you to start a line, Alt and E takes you to the end. There you go. Little micro tip for you, or tip on micro text editor. What is going on here? Line 70, property finder is not defined. Oh, what the hell? What crawler or spider? Brackets, please. Right. Ah, that's worked. So amongst the typos and the incompetence on the keyboard front, the actual code has worked. And I don't know if it's collected the geodata because not all of the cards actually have it. I think the first page can you see that? Invalid expression in script type application LD JSON text. Well, now we know where to look, so let's go back into our spider. If I need to, I'll it's probably I've got some quotes in the wrong place or something. Script equals json.loads response.xpath. Can you see the error? Here we go. Script. I don't know how that got in there. Well, save, quit, run again. And I think that, so yeah, 25 items, you see that? And I still don't think we're going to get any geodata, and I'll tell you why. Because I think the start of the listings features I may have gone back too far now anyway. And so property found CSV should have 25 items. In fact, it may have 50. Let's have a look. And if we go to, can you remember what we, PF tut, there we go, PF tut, PF scrape, and property found. If you have any errors in your items file, then that will stop your CSV getting populated. So if you are finding that your CSV file is 0 bytes, you may want to go through your items file with a fine-toothed comb. No, so there's no geodata, but once we go to the next page, or all of the next pages, we may find that that gets populated. So I'm not going to worry too much yet. So if you want a break, I'm just going to pause this for a second, and I'm just going to get ready to do the final piece of code to crawl through all of the pages. So if you'd like to see that, and if you'd like to see a working CSV, I will fix it, then I'll be back in a sec. Go and get a drink. Okay, I don't know if you're following this on Windows or on Linux or Mac or whatever, but if you happen to be using Linux, you may need to, if you want to remove the CSV file, let's do that. You will need to do it under sudo, because otherwise you won't be allowed to delete it. And as you can see, it's just disappeared. Before we get back to the main code, just want to discuss, I've created the spider at this level, which is the same level as items. Scrapy really wants you to create it in here. When I create it in here, I get problems with importing the items file. And there's all sorts of things with cache files with a .pyc file extension. So yeah, to cut long story short, I create my spider here in the same level as items.py, and then I run it from the command line using Python rather than Scrapy crawl followed by the spider name. Doing it this way, you can code in where you want the file to be saved using custom settings and feed format and feed URI. So it's more self-contained, and as you've probably seen on Maxim's videos, all of his code is all in the one file. And what was I going to say? I've forgotten. Let's get back on with the code. We're nearly there, so let's just do this last bit, which will go through all of the pages. This bit I got from, or I first learned from some tutorials by, I forget the name, I'll put in the descriptions, but he's done some very good tutorials where he shows xpath, loaders, processors, the sort of things that you may want to know about if you're going to progress on to doing. And also he talks about outputting to MongoDB as well. So if you're interested in that, I'll put the link there, as that's something I'll be progressing with in due course as well. Right, I'm not going to bullshit. I've already got this link, so this, well, I'll show you where it comes from. This comes from we're dealing with pagination here, so you can see at the moment we're on page one up there, which is what we started with, which was our start URL. Here we can see obviously 10 results, but we know there's more than 10, and inspect pagination link. Pagination underscore link dash dash next, and we want to get the href from that. So we will then be pasting that in here. So we need to make sure we get our as ever, we need to be very careful with mixing our single and double quotes, because as we know, that's very bad if we get those mixed up. And then href, and then we just want to get the next one, so it's get, definitely not get all. Then we say if next underscore page is not none. So this is the way to keep going through the whole site, which could get you a lot of results. And Remind me in a second to connect my VPN before I run this in anger. I haven't used proxies yet, but URL equals. So we want to response.follow and next page, and then call back, and we would just want to keep going again with self.pass. And if you are ready for the grand unveiling, let's go for it. I've just I've deleted, so you see I've deleted the property found file, and tell you what, let's just can I bring up that as well at the same, make that full screen. There we go. Oh, I don't know what's going to happen here. Let's just run it. Oh, why has this gone wrong then? Ah, I typed path, not xpath. One letter out of all that code and it breaks. You see how important attention to detail is. And keep watching, because we've probably just gone through maybe we're still on page 1, you can see. And I'm waiting for it to go to page 2. And if we get any geodata, longitude and latitude, appearing anytime soon, then we have complete success. And holding my breath, well, I'm not, but I'm just wondering if we are going to get, not all of them had the geodata, but this will go on and on and on for a long, long time, so I may have to let it run a little bit more, and then we will quit and we will look at the CSV file. I'm not seeing any longitude and latitude. Oh well, let's close it then. We may have to just fix that. Any longitude and latitude? No. Right. Let me just point out before I get back to the geo bits, just going to show you, we've stripped the price right back, which is great. So the input-output processor did that with the map compose, strip, remove tags, remove tabs, and remove spaces. Right, let's close that, and I'm just going to pause. I'm just going to find out what's wrong with this, and I'll be back in a sec. So I've just spotted a typo in here, which, let's just element. I really do need to practice my typing skills. Does anyone recommend a really good keyboard that helps clumsy typists? I'd be interested to hear if anybody knows a really nice keyboard. Right, let's run again. I've just run it without deleting the CSV. I'm hoping to see some, please let's see some longitude and latitude. As I said before, they don't all have it. Let's just, okay. One more. Let's go open up CSV. Scroll to the bottom because it's pending. Oh dear, still nothing. Okay, I'm going to pause it. I'll try and find the problem, and I'll resume. Okay, so I've just run it again, and I've noted that the listing URL, which is column F, is just showing as propertyfinder.bh, whereas really it should be joining propertyfinder.bh with the relative URL, and I've called that the href in this file. So yeah, so we should be seeing F should actually be showing listing URL, which should be what we've currently got plus concatenated with that. So I'm going to check that now. Okay, so I think I've identified, I had an extra bracket on the end of get on line 44, so save, quit, let's run again. Hopefully it will, oh, line 46, it's not liking that now. Okay, so I had a typo. That's now fixed, and we now have a CSV file with geo coordinates as well. So let's just delete that, and we will run this for a grand finale if you would like to see that. So I'm just going to, yeah, there we go, remove that, and clear screen. And now I'll just recap on what we've done. So we've taken Maxim's code, which was self-contained. He was using CSS selectors, nothing wrong with that. And we've modified this to use an item loader, a processor or input processor, which has been stripping off the white spaces and new lines from the price, from the response of the price. And we have now got a fully working spider, which, where available, it will extract the geodata, as you've seen. And you're not seeing it on the screen here. I don't know if there's a reason for that. It may actually be because it's not displaying it. No, it's not showing it here. I need to investigate that, but needless to say, we are getting it in the output file. I wonder if that's because I'm adding it as a value instead of an xpath. May well be. So yeah, to be honest, this will run through, potentially this will run through so quickly you won't want to be reading it anyway. So we've crawled, what, 7 pages? Oh, 7 pages per minute. Okay. I'll just let that run for a bit longer. I hope you've enjoyed this video. It took me quite a while to make this, to write the code and create the video. So yeah, give me a thumbs up. You know you need to, don't you? If you don't, I'll, well, who knows? Who knows what the repercussions might be for not subscribing? Dare you find out. Right, that's enough now. Let's close that, Control C twice, and I'll just do ls and I'll just show you. So we've got the spider and the items. Those are the 2 files we've created, and those are the 2 files which will be on GitHub in due course. So let's just look at our property found CSV. There might be something that I've missed off. I can't remember if Maxim collected any additional data. I can't remember. I'm pretty happy with this, to be honest. We've got the geo coordinates. So latitude, it's alphabetical, you see. So it's BA, BE, F, H, L, A, L, I, L, O, L, O, N, G. Yeah. that's just a feature. I'm sure you spreadsheet wizards can reorganize that. Price, as I say, the price is actually proper integer now, or integers. Previously it was just surrounded by white space and tabs, as I keep banging on about. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this. Yeah, thanks to Maxime for the original idea and his original code. Thanks to Scrapy, thanks to Python, thanks to everyone who knows me. See you again. Till next time. Yeah, bye.
Well, Dr. Pi, this has been an absolutely fucking amazing video. So I want everybody who's watched it, please subscribe or we're gonna do you.